Hello, vinyl community. My name is Richard. Welcome to my channel. Again, it's been a long time since I've had a video out. What better time to get back into it again than when we had the vinyl tag going on, which is where I did get started a few years back. Also thanks to Rob Walker's setting it up. So I will step through what ended up being quite a heap of albums quick. So I will start out with a favorite record purchased in 2023. Japanese band DeLoreans, as in the famed but perhaps not overly good car brand from the 80s. This is most excellent Canterbury scene style music with soft machine influences and also some Zappa instrumental influences. Instrumental album, highly recommended. And thanks to Pete of Red Sounds from the West Coast for recommending this. Next, the last album of 2023 that I think it said you bought. This was the last thing to come in the mail anyways in 2023. This is the Norwegian band Kanan. The name of the album is Diversions Volume 2, Enter the Astral Plane. This is instrumental krautrock, 70s style. In all its glory to me. The album was just hot off the presses late 2023. Very excellent. Kanan has several other albums out. There's a follow-on to this. I still have to dig into their back catalog. They did come out with another album in 2023 called Downpour, which is more jazz rock. Also recommend checking them out for their other music. But if you need some new, still somewhat familiar sounding Ashra Temple or Canon style krautrock, recommend this one. Next, a band or singer who released 2 or more albums in a year. And I will go to France and Japan and show Poil Ueda. Poil is a French band. Ueda is a Japanese traditional vocalist, so think quite far back probably in Japanese folk tradition of singing. I only have the first album on CD that was released in the spring of 2023. And then later in 2023, they released this follow-up. Both are under the name, they just say Poil Ueda. The album is Yoshitune, or Yoshituna, I'm not quite sure what the appropriate pronunciation is. It's categorized as kind of avant-garde, experimental, folky. Also has a label of brutal prog. So if you need something new, something different, check this out. Next, if you could only listen to music from one decade, which decade would you choose? So I'm sticking to the kind of the decades, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. I have to say 70s, where so much great progressive rock music and fusion came out. And I will show a couple of albums from the 70s. This is British prog rock group Gnitterlog. Lady Lake, this is a reissue on the For Men With Beards label. Great stuff. They only released, I think, 2 albums and a live album that's not easy to get a hold of from the 70s, and then they came back much later with an album from year 2000. Second one I will show is Finnish band Wigwam and their album Nuclear Nightclub. Could really use a re-release on this, Svart Records. This, I think, is an pretty old copy. It's okay, but could use something a little sharper sounding. Then a band from Manchester, and I use both Google, and I don't use it much, but I also did try ChatGPT just to see what it came back at me with. Certainly found a lot of names of bands I recognized, but not much that was in my collection. But I did find a surprising connection to one of my absolute favorite bands there is, Van der Graaf Generator. So I gather the band first formed with Peter Hamel, and I forget the name now. The second guy was very early on, formed Van der Graaf Generator while at university in Manchester. So this is their album God Bluff, perhaps my favorite albums of theirs, and probably one of the albums I hold in most esteem in my entire collection. This is a re-release from just a year or two back on the Charisma label. Then I will have to go for a twofer. Which band or singer did you listen to the most in 2023? I think that probably was Jeff Beck. So here's Jeff Beck's Blow by Blow. Scatterbrain is absolute earworm for me. I've listened to Jeff Beck quite a bit over the past 2-3 years in particular. A few tunes I like to noodle on the guitar, and it just brings me to my happy place. Even before he passed away about a year ago, which addresses another question. So to answer honestly, I think certainly this is one artist I thought was really sad when he passed away, and I've listened to quite a bit both before and after his passing. Then we'll go to show 7-inch records. Well, I don't have many, so I'll show my entire collection. We'll start with one I think I've shown before, Proud Peasants on the Fruit de Mer label. Cover songs of Manfred Mann's Earth Band. The band here is from Austin, Texas. They just somewhat late on in the 2023 released a new album called Communion, only available on CD and streaming services and such, but it's a great album if you're kind of like music that could be influenced by King Crimson, Red Era, and Mike Oldfield. You should definitely check this out. This is 7-inch that came with kind of a special release of Delvin Lamar's organ trio, Coldless Weiss album on blue transparent vinyl. This one is not very old. Was released, I think, in November or December. I forget exactly now. The band is Ringman Mobius. It's a Norwegian progressive rock band, very much 70s influenced. Peter Hamel, Keith Emerson influenced band. They released a studio album this year as well. This has nothing to do with their studio album. A-side is a song called Do They Think It's Jazz? And on the B-side is Nitra's Dance, which is a Edvard Grieg classical tune, here adapted by Ringman Mobius. Some of Edvard Grieg's music is very conducive to being rocked out too. And finally, this is Pink Floyd's Hey Hey, Rise Up. Pink Floyd with Andrei Klevniuk. And the B-side is A Great Day for Freedom, the 2022 version. So those are all my 7-inches. I have one 10-inch as well, but that's it for such formats, or the smaller versions of vinyl. Who's coming to your party? So choose 4 music-related people that you'd invite to dinner. I'm not sure if this would be all at the same time, but anyways, I will start out with, kind of going back to Peter Hamel of Van der Graaf Generator. He doesn't have any very recent vinyl out this year, but I'll show, help if I hold it the right way, a very recent double album that he released, a kind of a re-recording of his albums In a Foreign Town, Out of Water, available on double CD. I just think he'd be really interesting to have a conversation with about music. Next, I'm kind of really have kind of a bit of a hunger to listen to or learn to play synthesizer. Don't have too much time for it. I did buy a little bit of a tweaker synthesizer box here, kind of a simulated analog synthesizer, if you will, just to horse around with it a little bit. But it would be fun to meet someone like Lars Fredrik Føisli, a Norwegian keyboard player from the band Wobbler. He released a solo album this year called Fire Fortellinger, or Four Tales, if you will, in English. Great symphonic progressive rock album on the Norwegian Charisma label. Or anyone else that would be kind of heavy on the Moog and such instruments. Next, I will go to Arne Nordheim. Arne Nordheim was a Norwegian composer, experimental classical music, neoclassical music. He's this is an album called Contemporary Music from Norway from, I believe, the 60s. This was largely sponsored by the Norwegian government, put out on the Norwegian side of Philips record label. I gather quite a few copies of this made its way over to the US with the diplomatic personnel in Washington, D.C., and was handed out of it in the US back in the 60s. There's still some nice copies floating around. I got this really nice copy off of Discogs. I'm really happy about that. This is more in a classical style. He also has electronic style music, and I think I mentioned it before, but did have a bit of a friendship with Frank Zappa back in the day. For those that might read Norwegian, there also was a book released about this album this year by Ola Nordahl. Most excellent. Recommend you read it. Next one I'd like to meet, Terje Rypdal, one of my favorite composers and guitar players. Still living. Saw him in a restaurant once, but certainly did not have dinner with him. Then finally, and I don't have an album, but one earworm of mine this year has been a version of, Jeff Beck had a version of Goodbye Pork Pie Hat, and after his passing, there was a memorial concert, and Derek Trucks, American blues slide guitar player, recorded a version that I think of somewhat his own, but very influenced by Jeff Beck's version of Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. That's kind of been an earworm of mine, and I'd really like to, it'd be fun to talk to him about how he goes about interpreting that song. So those would be my four guests. Yeah, then the next question was, we lost them, and already covered that with the sad passing of Jeff Beck. Number 10, imagine you could only listen to music from one country. Which country would you choose? Well, I could go with several things. It's a tough one. I'll pick UK. So, just to represent UK, a couple of iterations of Robert Fripp's Exposure that has a few really well-known UK names on it, including Peter Gabriel, Peter Hamill. So much great 70s progressive rock in particular, and other things too. So that will be my answer there. Next one, name 3 vinyl community channels that you discovered in 2023. Well, I have had limited energy time for for the vinyl community. I will admit in the last several months, I will call out a few. I can't recall if I discovered them in 2023, but so certainly probably been chiefly interacting with them during 2023. Those of Petri Hakala from Finland. Petri shows a great variety of music from all over the world. It really pushes my boundaries for listening to new stuff. I greatly appreciated. Next one is Similitude of Prague, a Canadian channel by Brent. It talks about progressive rock. Big Genesis fan, and I think we have some common interests there, certainly. Finally, I will mention the Rolstonian Music Lounge. The Rolstonians Music Lounge, he shows a lot of blues music. I don't necessarily listen to a tremendous amount of blues, but I do. This one I prefer to play when I work on my guitar playing at home, and certainly part of getting some inspiration is to listen to it as well. So I really appreciated seeing some of his blues recommendations over here. Then going to the question number 12, show a record that you bought when you were a teenager. Well, I don't have any vinyl that I owned when I was a teenager, but here's one of the very first CDs I bought was Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells. I was able to find a vinyl copy this year. I think this one needs a trip to some more advanced vinyl cleaning bath. It has a certain fireplace ambiance with it that I don't really want, but I'm sure it will work itself out. But still an album I really appreciate, even if I don't listen to it as much as I did in my teens, certainly. Show a funk or soul record. Well, probably limited options there, but I will show Herbie Hancock's Headhunters. Probably would be the closest I could get. Not returning to maybe Dylan Lamar's Organ Trio, but great album. I think many will know, certainly. Show a record you think everyone has. I'm sure great many people have a version of A Love Supreme. This is an Impulse version. Sounds great. Do have to listen to that on occasion. An album that nobody has, or few has, I should say. American jazz fusion band Shadowfax. This is their album Watercourse Way. I'd say been part of it somewhat Mahavishnu influenced. I just ordered another album of theirs off of Discogs. I think they were active in the 70s, maybe into the 80s. I think at some point in time there were some re-releases. I think the original ones might be hard to come by, but worth a listen. So if Prague jazz fusion is your thing, you might want to try them out. Next question. She's Great, a record by a female artist you bought in 2023. I will show this one. I got fairly late in the year, and so I have had a little bit of time to digest it. This is an album by Monica Roscher Big Band. I think that's Monica Roscher on the cover there. The album is Witchy Activities and the Maple Death, released fall of 2023, double album. If you look on her Bandcamp page, there's a slew of labels put on this. Alternative, progressive, jazzy, poppy. I think there's some, could be some rock and opposition vibes on some of this. This was something that was floated in a Norwegian progressive rock forum by one of the Panzer Papa members, which certainly made my ears perk up, because that's one of my band I really appreciate. So recommend checking that out. And don't be, if you're not into big band music, don't be scared about the big band. If you'll hear, certainly you'll hear some of that, but it's different. Next question: the favorite video you posted on your channel in 2023? Well, I think that'd probably be my vinyl tag from last year, and again, I was not very productive, so in terms of releasing videos. Favorite other videos? That's tough. I will mention there's videos by Petri Hakala again, that's kind of pushing my boundaries for exploring new music. Some from the West Coast with the excellent krautrock videos, and Nordic progressive rock, of course, which is a great love of mine. But so many great videos out there that kind of brightens the day and makes me listen to new things, and that's what I appreciate the most. Show me a record you'd describe as a 90s classic. I don't know if I have a lot of albums that many would think of as 90s classics in my collection, but oops. Sorry about that. But I find one that I did listen to a bit in the 90s, but I probably actually grown to appreciate it even more in the later years. Pink Floyd, Division Bell. I did get to see the Division Bell tour when they played in Oslo in '94, I believe it was. Again, this album has just continued to grow on me over years. Next one, if I could walk into a cover, look through your collection and choose a record cover you'd like to be a part of. Well, there's quite a few I could probably pick here, but I'll show this one. Nice streams, waterfalls, mountainous, foresty terrain here. Something I miss a bit and wouldn't mind having some time away from things in such environment. This is by a Norwegian, I think fairly hard metal. Maybe not even call it hard metal. It may be more like Scandinavian death metal, if I understand correctly. That actually wrote a folk album, or the kind of neo-folk album. So it has nothing to do with Scandinavian death metal. Really like the cover image, and if you think kind of like Nordic-inspired folky rock or a neo-folk would be of interest, you might want to check this out. It's like a greatest hits. Show a record you're so familiar with that it feels like a greatest hits. Well, I could probably pick a lot more stereotypical or common choices here from my record collection, but I will show an album that very consistently captures my attention all the way through, and I need a much better copy of. This is John McLaughlin and Carlos Santana, Love, Devotion, Surrender album. Among other things, features some John Coltrane interpretations. This is just an album that I got to listen to the whole thing. It's tough to only do one tune, and it all kind of flows into each other. Really love it. Now, I thought I'd shake it up a little bit. I also thought I'd show that I did pick up Chicago concert version of a lot of the same music. Interesting to have, but probably not the best sound quality on these on this vinyl. And there's two volumes and I believe 2, maybe someone that even has 3 discs in it, so that's a lot of material. It's like a greatest hits show or rec now. Sorry, next one is Show Me an Album that was released in '74. Well, there is quite a few albums I could show there in my collection. I will show Quella Vecchia Locanda, Italian progressive rock. I believe this album is, what's the name of the album? Il Tempo della Giola. And I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of the album. I believe my pronunciation of the band is pretty close. Great RPI, symphonic, prog, Italian style. I also did acquire another album of theirs in the past year. Also, great. Italian prog is been another area I really would like to dive into a lot more, and I have to some extent. So those are all my albums. I hope you enjoyed seeing them. Thanks again, Rob, for setting up the vinyl tag. Take care, everybody.